Stop worshipping Group B like it was some divine gift from the rally gods. Half of you watching right now think it was just pure, unadulterated engineering passion. You are wrong. Group B was the result of a governing body making a colossal math mistake. 1982, the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile. The FIA handed race engineers a blank rulebook, forgot to put a cap on turbocharger boost, and then acted shocked when 500 horsepower fiberglass missiles started breaking physics on narrow dirt roads. It was unbelievable, it was stupid fast, and it was completely insane. But let's stop pretending it was a sustainable masterclass in motorsport management. It was an accident waiting to happen, pushed by car companies who realized they could build legit spaceframe race cars and barely sell any road-going versions to qualify. Go ahead, tell me in the comments I'm wrong. But before you do, let's actually look at the math that made these cars too fast to live. Let me break down how this regulatory catastrophe actually started. In 1982, the FIA restructured Appendix J of the International Sporting Code. Out went Group 1 and Group 2, replaced by Group N for unmodified cars and Group A for modified production touring cars. If you wanted to race in Group N or Group A, you had to build 5,000 units in a 12-month period between 1982 and 1992. 5,000 cars. That meant real mass production. But then they created Group B to replace Group 3, Group 4, and the wild Group 5 silhouette circuit racers. And what was the homologation requirement for Group B? Just 200 cars, 200. That is 4% of what Group A required and half of the old Group 4 quota. Automakers didn't have to build practical family cars anymore. They could build 200 extreme, mid-engine sports grand touring specials, hand the keys to FIA officials, and immediately go tear up the World Rally Championship. 200 road cars is already a joke for a global manufacturer, but that isn't even the crazy part. The ultimate cheat code was the evolution rule. Under Group B regulations, if a manufacturer wanted to upgrade their car, they didn't need to build another 200 vehicles. They only had to build 10% of the original requirement. That means just 20 units of an evolution car. Think about how absurd that is. You make 20 revised cars, get your homologation stamp, and dump massive upgrades straight onto the rally stage. And because the rules required only 2 seats, traditional unibodies went straight into the trash. Engineers used full competition-oriented space frames. Look at the Ford RS200. It used custom fiberglass bodywork and had zero common production counterpart on dealer lots. Or look at the Peugeot 205 T16 and Lancia Delta S4. They put fake sheet metal skins over space frames just to look like road cars. It was total mechanical deception, and it was awesome. Now let's talk about the engines, because this is where the FIA completely lost control. When the rules were drafted, regulators thought weight limits and engine displacement limits were all they needed to control speed. For forced induction engines, they introduced a 1.4 multiplication factor. A 1.8-liter turbo engine counted as a 2.5-liter engine. Simple, right? Except they completely forgot to cap turbo boost. Turbocharging was still new in road cars back then, but early 80s engine builders figured out how to extract absolute insanity out of forced induction. In 1981, winning rally cars were making around 250 horsepower. By 1986, just 5 years later, multiple Group B cars were pumping out well over 500 horsepower. That is double the output in half a decade. Peugeot literally bolted on a Formula One-derived antilag system to keep boost spooled, even if it was primitive as hell. Lancia went even further and twin-charged the Delta S4, slapping a supercharger and a turbocharger onto an engine just to kill turbo lag completely. Engineers treated the FIA weight displacement classes like a personal playground. Across Groups N, A, and B, there were 15 displacement classes based on that 1.4 equivalence factor, each with strict minimum weight limits and maximum wheel sizes. The heavy hitters sat in 2 main brackets. You had the 3000cc equivalent class, meaning a 2142.8cc turbo engine max, with a 960 kg minimum weight limit. That's where heavyweights like the Audi Quattro and the rear-wheel drive Lancia 37 lived. Then you had the 2500cc equivalent class, a 1785cc turbo cap, with a razor-thin 890 kg minimum weight limit. That's where lightweight units like the Peugeot 205 T16 and Lancia Delta S4 played. Even original cars like the Renault 5 Turbo squeezed a 1.4-liter turbo into the 2000cc class. Renault actually increased the engine size on the Turbo Maxi later just so they could bolt on wider tires, knowingly taking a weight penalty just to get traction. These guys were gaming every single line of Article 256. You cannot pair 500 horsepower spaceframe weapons with zero boost restrictions, bad rally itineraries, and non-existent crowd control without bodies dropping. It was a recipe for absolute disaster. Spectators were standing on live stages, relying on drivers to miss them at 100 miles an hour on gravel. The breaking point hit in 1986. At the Tour de Corse, star driver Henri Toivonen and his co-driver Sergio Cresto tragically lost their lives when their Lancia Delta S4 went off the road. The safety concerns, which had been boiling under the surface for years, erupted instantly. Right after that accident, the FIA pulled the plug. They announced a total ban on Group B from the World Rally Championship starting in 1987. They killed off the planned Group S regulations entirely and crowned Group A as the top tier of World Rally, forcing a strict 2,000cc engine cap and a 300 horsepower limit. Just like that, the crazy era was dead. So where did all these badass, orphaned race cars go when the WRC slammed the door shut? They didn't just vanish into thin air. X-Rally Group B cars found a brand new niche in the European Rallycross Championship, tearing up closed dirt and tarmac circuits where crowd control wasn't a nightmare. They ripped around rallycross tracks until 1993, when they were finally dropped there too. In 1991, the World Sports Car Championship had moved past Group B and Group C entirely, giving way to new classes like GT1 in the 90s. The last official Group B cars were homologated in 1993, though the FIA kept provisions alive for national championships and domestic racing as late as 2011. Think about that. Some of these chassis were legally racing in local series almost 30 years after FISA banned them from the WRC. That is a hell of an afterlife for a class that lasted only 5 years in the spotlight. Look, Group B was peak absurdity. It gave us the most dangerous, impressive, and unhinged rally cars to ever touch dirt. But let's stop rewriting history. It wasn't banned because it was too good for this world. It was banned because the regulators got lazy, engine tech outpaced human reaction times, and the FIA realized their 200-car loophole had created monsters they couldn't control. Modern Rally 1 cars would wipe the floor with a Group B car on any stage today, but nothing will ever match the sheer, terrifying spectacle of a 500-horsepower Delta S4 twin-charging its way down a mountain edge. So I'm asking you directly, if you had to drive one Group B legend on a loose gravel stage with zero electronic driver aids, which one are you taking? The Audi Quattro, the Delta S4, or the Peugeot 205 T16? Drop your pick in the comments, hit subscribe, and don't forget to tell me why my takes are wrong.